Today we're talking about AJ versus Usyk. First, we're going to talk about stats, then we're going to get into game plan, and then I'll have a prediction at the end for you. So let's look at stats between these two fighters. Okay, looking at these guys, looking at age first, AJ's 31 and Usyk is 34. Height-wise, AJ is 6'6 and Usyk is 6'3. Reach-wise, AJ has an 82-inch reach and Usyk has a 78-inch reach. And then looking at KO percentage, AJ has 88% KOs and Usyk has a 72% KO percentage. Now let's talk about game plan for each fighter and then get into prediction. Okay, so looking at these guys and what they might want to do game plan wise, let's first start with AJ and then I'll talk about Usyk. For AJ, I think it's pretty simple, which is I see a style kind of matching this now and kind of changing and evolving in a really good way, which I think is more lateral movement and using that jab more. His jab is getting very good and very accurate. So I think that that's going to really help him in this, and him kind of debulking a little bit and having better movement. I think it's starting to show, and I like what's kind of going on there with him. I also noticed that I feel like AJ is being more patient. He's not forcing KOs. He's not trying to go on the attack immediately if his opponent gets hurt. He's really letting the KOs happen a little bit more naturally, which I think is smart of him. It's a really smart tactic. I think it shows a lot of maturity in his game plan, a little bit more in him as a boxer. So I really like that. Now, looking at Usyk on the other hand, and what he might look at and what's kind of going on with him, I think movement obviously is a huge part of his plan to frustrate Joshua, make Joshua kind of guess and make mistakes and then make him pay for it. I think punches and bunches is a really good thing for Usyk if he can get maybe AJ tired or frustrated and not able to predict what's going to happen next. It's a big part of it, using that southpaw stance that he's in to see if that makes Joshua a little bit more uncomfortable, because AJ's only fought one other southpaw in his career as a professional. So I think those kind of things are going to be game plan wise for him to try to get in there and get AJ a little bit more uncomfortable and not sitting there feeling like he's in control. So let's go to prediction now. For prediction, I think the big thing that's going to decide this fight, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, so I want to kind of go into it a little bit more. And I really think that that's the volume of punching from Usyk is going to kind of decide things a little bit here. The reason I say that is in the Gassiev fight, if you look over here, I'll show a quick stat. He had over 900 punches thrown. That's a lot of volume, and that's a great way for him, especially as someone that moves really well, to frustrate a hard-hitting kind of fighter. It makes them kind of guess what you're going to throw, where you're going to throw it from. It allows his footwork to also kind of shine a little bit because his opponent's constantly having to adjust. It's a great way for him to be productive. Now, the only thing I'll mention about that is looking at now his heavyweight fights a little bit more, looking at something like the Chisora fight, let's say. You look at the stats here, it's dropped down quite a bit. Now, some of that can be he's bulking up a little bit more. You know, Chisora is a different style fighter compared to Gassiev. Obviously, Chisora is a very come forward fighter and stuff like that. And the opening rounds, it was tough for him to probably get in control. But he needs to make sure that his volume output is significant enough that it gives Joshua problems or makes Joshua feel uncomfortable. You have low volume on AJ, I feel like he's going to be in control and be able to control the situation and where the fight happens a lot more. I think that's the big key for me in this fight. Because AJ's grown and matured as a fighter with his style, I think it's really helped him come along and make it difficult for fighters to figure out how they're going to get on the inside and do the work they want to do, especially if they're smaller and have a shorter reach compared to him. Now, the other thing that is a little bit of an X factor here, and I wanted to bring up, and I mentioned it earlier, which is Usyk's a southpaw, and it's the only other southpaw that he's faced that AJ's ever fought was Charles Martin. So there hasn't been a huge array of southpaws in AJ's resume as a pro fighter. Granted, I'm sure that him and his team are going to have plenty of sparring partners that are southpaw for him to train with, but still, it is an X factor there. It's something that could make things a little bit more interesting, and we'll see how everything kind of plays out there. So final prediction now. I think initially when I first heard about this fight happening, I thought, this is AJ's fight. I haven't been super impressed with Usyk as a heavyweight. So I think that was my initial gut feeling. That said, as time has gone on, the more I've kind of studied Usyk and AJ's resume, to be honest with you, AJ's never faced someone that can move this well. and he's never faced someone that can be this athletic. So I think that is going to cause a problem for AJ. In the end, I think AJ with that jab is going to win this fight. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it might even be a little bit boring for some people, but I really think that AJ has the tools to win this. I do think that Usyk is going to have moments in this fight, especially because he's been doing a full training camp with Papachenko, which is a really good thing for him. That said, I'm going to be leaning towards AJ to win this fight by unanimous decision. I think that people might be a little bit upset with some of the scorecards, but I do think in the end, AJ will win. So that's all I got to say for this fight. That's my prediction for this fight. We will be live streaming for this fight on Saturday, so if you want to come join us, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And with that said, we'll talk to you later. Thanks.